Sing to the rock, sing to the tree, sing to the firefly lighting up the sky. Sing, sing to the sea.
Hello, I'm Mary Whelan, and this is the song Voices of Dissent. And today I'm very pleased to present Esther Friedman.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm a bar stool away from Shadow's retreat. Buy me a scotch, I'll take my seat with the lawyers and the liars, politicians, drunk and depraved. Shadow's retreat is only a bar stool away. I am a bender away from angels' defeat. Send me back to Babylon with the rest of the cheats. Buy another round, we'll raise a toast to deceit and decay. Angels' defeat is only a bender away. 1 million hands reaching my way. 1 million lips say we can save you. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm happy to stay in this dimly lit pub with the rest of the fray. In the Garden of Eden I was a child at play. Kingdom of heaven is now calling my name, but it's too late for me, baby. I've already fallen from grace. I ate the apple, now I'm gonna sit here and wait for doomsday. I'm gonna hang at the bar, watch a little TV, nod off all the talking heads, spout off about morality, preaching right and wrong while the bombs fall and our tax dollars pay Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, Trump, Trump. I'm gonna get stinking drunk with the rest of the punks. Ain't no use in fretting when we're heading to Armageddon, 'cause we're all sunk and we're all gonna flunk come Judgment Day. Okay, one down. There were a few hiccups in that song. Did you hear them? Because if you didn't, I'm just going to let it go. Okay. All right, good. Let's not be perfectionistic about this one. A 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Starry-eyed believer seeks any kind face. You the deceiver sensed a trace, the delicious longing of those so insecure. Make for perfect fish to lure. Starry-eyed believer seeks any kind word. You the deceiver saw and heard the hollow voice and the pleading look. Grabbed your fish custom made for you to captivate. So let the feeding frenzy begin. Don that devout disguise. You are ready for the bait and switch. You got a lot of fish to fry. Bottom feeders, parasites, sharks on the hunt, vultures in flight. Even Bernie Madoff's got nothing on you. Get your cauldron out, you've got some guppies to stew. Starry-eyed believer, starry-eyed believer, starry-eyed believer, starry-eyed believer.
Well, I'm so glad you could come today.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's nice to have you back again.
Thanks. It's always good to be here.
Yeah. So anyway, I asked you to be on this new version of the song Voices of Dissent, because I was aware you've really become quite the activist since the last election.
Yeah. I can't not be part of, I guess, what's now called the resistance, because I feel like every level of democracy, every component of democracy is at risk right now with this current administration. So to be honest, I have a lot of other things to do, like most people do, but I think I would go mad if I didn't participate in some way with this resistance.
Yeah, it's important. It's
Yeah.
important to find, whatever way is best for you, where you can best express what you're...
Well, and I think that's an important point, because there's so much that you have to find a balance, because, you want to have a life at the same time, and people are busy, and, there are other things to do. But for me, I've just been feeling so angry that, angry to the point where I feel like I'm about to lose my mind, that the best way for me to deal with it is to join up.
Doing something.
Yeah, to be doing something with other people who feel the same way.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that for me, I know you went to the Boston Women's March.
I did,
the day
yeah,
after the inauguration. I went to the one in Northampton.
Okay.
And which, even though Northampton's a pretty small place in comparison to Boston, there were thousands of people.
That's a kick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know for me that when the election happened, after the results came in, I was feeling really bummed. I'm sure a lot of people felt really bummed.
Yeah.
But that was the real beginning of me being able to, the march was like the beginning of me to being able to feel like, well, people can stand up against this, and people can fight what the administration is standing for.
I was so amazed by the Women's March. I was amazed by my experience in Boston. We were just jam-packed in the Boston Commons. Mm-hmm. I would say there was probably about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes where you couldn't even move. Mm-hmm. And I was looking around thinking, okay, if something happens, we are really screwed. But nothing happened because everyone was so polite. And then, I got home and I heard that there were marches all across the country, all over the world, and I have not heard any media address the fact there were no arrests, there was no violence. And so I just found that, yes, I'm really angry and in some ways despairing about the state of politics right now and the Trump administration, and I think he's a con man, and I think he's a threat to. I've never felt threatened by my own government before until now, on the other hand, it was so inspiring to see that level of response. Of course, we were all paid by George Soros, I guess. I didn't get my check. So if you're watching, George, send me my check.
And I guess I feel like he's like unifying all these different groups.
Right.
It's really,
right.
Because people really have to unify to stand up against so many things. I mean, it's just
everything.
It's just so many things that
every
are
component.
so wrong.
Yeah, every component. And I think, on the one hand, it's very important and inspiring. Like, we all have to stand up and unify. And then the other thing is, how do we do that? That's what's the next step. So, I mean, I, for example, live north of Boston in a pretty white suburb, but I would like for us to reach across. I'm in North Reading. Let's reach across the line to Lawrence, which is not very white. Let's unify different communities, different races, different religions. Let's come together because we're basically facing who I consider to be a common enemy right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and now, in free speech, we were talking before the show, free speech is just really so endangered.
Yeah, this whole idea that that the media, the news media is fake and the enemy of the people, and protest, is being. I mean, dictators do this. They paint the media out to be. The enemy, of course, like places like North Korea or Egypt, these journalists end up in jail, and we need them. And then protests, that's the American way. This is America. This is democracy. And suddenly we have Trump in office. He doesn't seem to know what democracy is. This is free speech. The Women's March was free speech, but of course we were all being paid. So.
That's what he said. Everybody was being paid.
Right. Yeah. Of course. If you criticize him, it's because someone's paying you. So.
So, and I know that in addition to you've been to the march, but you've also been to some other protests. Yeah. And you also. I know on Facebook you frequently share information about what congressmen and senators people should be contacting about various bills and who's on what committee and all that. And that's something that's very positive to be letting people know about because that's really hard to keep track of. It's really hard to keep track of. I am fortunate that these groups I've connected up with out by where I live are very organized and they share and then I pass it on. But I think we're seeing evidence that if we, the people, are calling our elected officials and saying, what are you doing about this, that it's effective, in that we're still living in a democracy. We have to put pressure on them. And so I feel that it's important to share the information and make it as easy as possible for people to do it. And actually, a lot of people are really nervous about making those calls. But if you do make the calls, I didn't really mean to say that twice. You find that actually it's easy. You may not even have a very long conversation, but just the fact it's a numbers game. They're keeping track of the number of people who call and their complaints. So even if you bumble through it, even if you're nervous, it doesn't matter. So I'm inspired to. So in addition to doing all of that, though, you also recently wrote an article. Can you talk about the article? It's called Free Speech and Cultic Litigation, Interview with Attorney Peter Skolnick.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk about that some because it's, really...
It's related.
It's important and it really relates very much to other ways in which free speech is people are trying to
suppress it.
Having that.
And it's, free speech is a foundation of our democracy, really. I mean, I could go on and on about the importance of free speech. I am amazed by the wisdom of our founding fathers to write that into the Constitution. So the article, as you know, Mary, is part of a bigger project that we had talked about before in my last interview, where I got recruited into a group. It ended up being a cult. So it's an old and long story. I got out, but now that experience is like shaping my career, it's shaping my path in life. And this article was part of that whole story because, of course, once I got out of the group, I put up a blog, and the group, the cult, I should say, did try to sue me. It was ridiculous, and it went nowhere. But what I learned is that cults do this because they can get away with it, and I just got extraordinarily lucky in every way. Most people can't find representation. They can't afford it. And so... or
representation that's adequate representation,
right.
Because there are a lot of lawyers just don't know how to defend people against these cults.
Most lawyers don't.
Yeah.
You know, most lawyers don't have the experience because the cults will pull out every trick in the book. This attorney, Peter Skolnick, has been litigating against cults for 15 years. This article is part of the International Occultic Studies Association, kind of wider study of the legal system and how predatory groups abuse the legal system to suppress free speech, basically. And it's a pretty sobering thing, because if you have money, and these groups have money, and Donald Trump has money, then you can shut people up simply because you have money. And free speech doesn't matter at that point. If you cannot afford a lawyer, or if you don't have a lawyer who, you know, is adequately prepared for this kind of abuse of the court system, they can shut you down. And I personally, based on, you know, my experience in this group and what happened afterwards, I think that's a free speech issue. It's also a mental health issue. I think it's really damaging to shut people up that way. So that's really more, I'm not a lawyer, you know, I'm in the mental health field, so yeah. So. And
so it sounds like what they do is they really go after people for defamation.
Defamation is what Peter Skolnick calls the horse that drives the cart or something like that. So the cases are always centered on charges of defamation, and then they tag on other accusations, but that's always at the center of it. And so it's always about something that was said, a criticism, and this should sound familiar. You know, any criticism of such a group that makes them look like a cult, because they are. These groups don't want, they don't want that, because they're recruiting, you know.
And people, if they heard the word cult, probably a lot of people wouldn't join it.
Right. I mean, when you join a group like that, you don't know you're getting into a cult, right? If somebody said, "Hey, Mary, you want to join my cult?" You'd probably say, I think I got other things to do.
Better things to do with my time.
Yeah, it's usually cloaked in some other thing. You know, certainly the group I got into was cloaked as this casual philosophy group where people got together and talked. You know, and it really wasn't what let's just say the marketing didn't match the product.
And they really took people's money. Right?
Oh yeah,
a lot of money. I mean, so they take your money while you're a member, and then if you try to leave the group, then they're going to take even more, they're going to bankrupt people a lot of the time.
They do, yeah. I mean, fortunately, again, that wasn't my experience, but there, as he says in the article, there are, case after case of these groups just bankrupting people to keep them quiet. Yeah. They will ruin your lives, your life, I should say, if you're criticizing them publicly. So it's a really sobering problem, and there are no systems in place to protect people from that kind of.
So, like frivolous lawsuits, the courts have to hear them, even though
They
they're
have to
really
hear them.
frivolous. They have no way of weeding them out.
They have no way of weeding them out. And because I asked Attorney Skolnick, why do the courts let this happen? And he said, essentially, once the case is filed, the courts are obligated to respond. Mm-hmm. So, the wheels start to roll and they have to respond. And, some judges are more savvy than others mm-hmm. about seeing, this kind of frivolous manipulation. And mm-hmm. so it really depends on the lawyer being prepared to just pound the point home, mm-hmm. Point out constantly, this is a tactic that cults used, this is, and the tactics run the gamut from, just constant, document requests, so that if it's a smaller law firm, they can't keep up with those requests, mm-hmm. To filing for dismissal, or just making things up, or making the legal paper, the legal filings just long and tedious and repetitive, So it's really convoluted. So.
Now, if people wanted to actually read the article, they can find it online, right?
Yeah, they can go to either my blog, which is cultconfessions.com, or you can go to the International Cultic Studies Association website, and I believe you can find it on their website, which is icsa.org. Uh-huh. We might have to look that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so if people want to hear your music, or buy your music,
yeah,
how do they do that?
Right now, Reverb Nation. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and I'll have to get you a link.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
okay.
That I will be creating website and stuff like that, but.
Well, there's some people they just do it. Reverb Nation. Yeah. It's a good.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for it.
Actually, I my first record, I only have the one now, but I am in the middle of recording the second one. It is on iTunes now, come to think of it.
It is on iTunes.
Yeah, so you can find it there.
Yeah.
Of course, none of these songs are on the first record, but
But you're going to be you're working on one that will be.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And when do you think that might be?
We are aiming for the fall.
Okay,
so this
great.
coming fall 2017. So
Uh-huh.
fingers crossed.
Wonderful.
It's been taking a long time.
Uh-huh.
People are, it's between day jobs and everything else.
Yeah. Things can take longer than you think.
Yeah, definitely.
And but anyway, I'm so glad you could come today.
Well,
I
thank
know
you,
you
Mary.
have some more music for us.
I do. Thank you for having
great.
me.
Yeah. So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Gray skies, framed half-mast, old glory bowed down, sleet fell, we drove past, my heavy heart hit the ground. Cars lined Route 95, the stars and stripes flapped and spun. They lined the road in that all too familiar code, reminding us what had been done. From Minnesota to Florida, from California to Maine, the wind still cries out every name. But are we listening? 20 little faces, 6 guardian angels still cry out to the wet, white, and blue. Another holiday season comes round again. We still don't do what we should do. And if a nation has a heart, our nation's heart is broken. And if there is a heaven, their spirits have spoken. Are we listening? Gray skies, half-mast, oh glory bows down. Okay. So this one I wrote after Obama got elected, and I thought it would have a shelf life, but I find that it's still relevant. So. It's called It's Time. There's a steady wind and the tide is rolling in, rising high for the world to see. Thousands gathered in Grand Park, hopeful faces lighting the dark, hands reaching out to bend the arc of history. Because it's time and we are ready to be free. I hear Martin Luther King singing, let freedom ring, and he is calling out, I still have a dream. I see Lincoln by his side, hear it echo off the mountainsides, over the fruited plains to the shores of Galilee. Because it's time and we are ready to be free. Voices past, ringing back, crossing time, seeing sand, calling out to the promised land. There's a steady wind and the tide is rolling in, rising high for the world to see. Because you can't hold back a tidal wave when there's a new path demanding to be paved. It's